Welcome back to the Diva Roundtable, everyone. We're being joined right now by Krissy Vaine. Krissy, welcome to the Diva Roundtable.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Krissy, first of all, I know a lot of fans, a lot of our readers were surprised when they found out that you'd be joining Diva.com. How did you discover the site, and how long have you been a fan of it?
I actually discovered the site through a friend who I think she linked me to something that you guys had written one day, but only about a month or two ago. And after that, I was reading everybody's articles on the fashion and the photo shoots and all that stuff. I was like, this site is amazing. I was like, I have to visit here like every day. So that's basically how.
So one of the reason that we're here today is to talk about your WWE story. Obviously, you were signed to Deep South Wrestling, and you were in the developmental system, and then you were called up to WWE on the main roster to SmackDown, and you left a little while after. But you told us that it wasn't what people think it was, and there is more to the story. So. Let's start right at the beginning. I do believe it was when you started in DSW, right?
Yeah, it was just a wild ride, you know. I'm from North Carolina and grew up in a fairly small town and, you know, nice people and stuff. So it was a little bit shocking to me to go into Deep South with people who, you know, everybody just kind of has their guard up all the time when you work for a corporation like that. And so, anyways, I had a great experience when I was in Deep South, but there was always, like, your trials and your tribulations and whatnot. I'd say my first 6 months or so there was really, really hard, but after that I was able to win everybody over with just hard work and, you know, training ethic and that whole thing, and then it got easier. And so I loved Deep South for the last year that I was there, and then we got shut down. So that was kind of a shocking thing, and it hurt a lot because I had built some really, really strong friendships and relationships with a lot of those people there, namely the trainers and Jody Hamilton and Bill, and I don't know. It was heartbreaking when we got shut down. It really, really was. And I think that I was still like, I think I was, oh yeah, it came out of nowhere. But I think I was still kind of in like my North Carolina bubble where I had, you know, built a really close group of friends. And basically it's your family when you're there because you're forced to move away from your family and your friends and everything that you know. So, you know, I got really close with those people there. And yeah, they came in one night at like 7 o'clock and just shut us down out of nowhere. I mean, and we were told to be in Tampa within two or 3 weeks. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was shocking. And we had to take down the ring, and we had to load it up in a truck. And I watched Jody, who was like my grandpa. I mean, the relationship that I had with Joe was like, he always believed in me from day one when nobody else did. Everybody else thought I was like this unathletic, couldn't move, couldn't work, you know, never going to go anywhere type thing. And he never once, like, didn't believe in me and always let me know that he believed in me from day one. So it was just really, really hard to watch him go around and take pictures of everything, and everything's being taken out by, you know, management and by ourselves. And it was brutal. I cried off my fake eyelashes, to say the least.
So when you were in Deep South, just so our readers have a clear picture, who were the other girls that you were working there with?
When I first came in, the only girls there were Trinisha, who's Raka Khan, Michelle McCool, and Angel, I think, were the only girls, because Deep South was still really new when I came along. They had only been there about a year or so, maybe a year and a half before I came along. And that was actually not where I was supposed to go. I was supposed to go to Kentucky. But I chose to go to Atlanta, A, because it was a lot closer to where I'm from, and I thought it would be nicer to be closer to home. And B, John had told me he wanted me to go down there and be, you know, kind of a locker room leader. Angel had just gotten hurt at the time, so there was no girls at that time who were workers. And he had told me he wanted me to go down there and kind of be the locker room leader or whatnot. And so that's why I went there.
So looking back, do you wish you had gone to Kentucky instead of Deep South?
No, not at all. I had a great time when I was in Atlanta. No, not at all. Like I said, my first 6 months were really hard. Bill he's an amazing trainer, and he taught me how to, play the game. That's why he puts you through everything that he puts you through, but you're so ready for everything when you come out of his training. But it was hard. I mean, like nothing I've ever done before in my life. It was hard. And it was not just hard physically, it was hard mentally. And it started from the day that I stepped foot into that place. It's so competitive. The girls, the day that I stepped in there, tried to turn the trainers against me. And it came from something that I thought that I was doing to help, because I had been told I was going to go in there and be the locker room leader. But when you work at Independence, like you're used to being around like girls like Lexi Fife and Malaya Hosaka, and after you have a match, they come and they tell you, oh, I really liked your match, but you could have done this and that would have made that really awesome, or you could have done that and that would have made that really awesome, or whatnot. So I made the mistake of doing that my first week there. I come in and I'm like, I'm sure that my head is blown up out of control, like can't even get me through the front door type of thing. But I did have 5 years of experience coming into that place, and nobody else did. Angel had just gotten hurt, so I would have never told her, because she had more experience than me. But Michelle McCool and a girl who wasn't under a contract at that time had a match. And I was just trying to make friends and trying to just make conversation, because everybody's really, unfriendly. That's just the nature of the beast. Everybody's really unfriendly until they get to know you, and that's just a protection measure for everybody. I mean, I eventually became like that. But, I'm always, really friendly at first. And so if you're not talking to me, I'm thinking you don't like me for some reason. And if you don't like me, I'm thinking I've done something wrong. So long story short, I had given Michelle and the other girls some things that I liked about their match, but that I also thought could be, better. Big mistake. That was That was where I think the problems with Michelle and I may have started. That's the only thing that I can figure out, is that's where it started with her. And so anyways, they went to the trainers and buried me and said that I was this and that I was that. And so it made it really hard for me in my first few months. But I eventually came through that, and people saw that I was a hard worker, and, that paid off, and I ended up getting a really big push in Deep South and doing really, really well. I tried to talk with Michelle about that whole thing, because, of course, I was eventually told there are no secrets in wrestling, that I had upset them. So, a few weeks down the line, she was still really cold and, didn't really say anything to me. And I pulled her to the side one day and said, could I talk to you? Because I like everybody. I'm friends with most everybody. And if I don't get along with you, there's normally something, going on. So I said, I feel like that there's something, happened between us, and I really don't know what happened, but if I did something wrong, can you please tell me? And I'm really, really sorry. And she just looked at me and said, no, I don't have a problem with you, and walked away. Mm-hmm. So that's, that was pretty much that. But my experience with at Deep South in general was amazing. I mean, Bill and I built this great relationship. Chantel and Angel and I were like the three stooges. You couldn't pull us apart from each other, and we had this great friendship. And we went out and we had fun on weekends together, and we did TV and the shows together and stuff. And it was a really, really great experience. I always used to tell Bill, whenever my first few months, because we would do double duty training. We would have a girls' practice where we would train for a few hours, and then we would have a practice with the guys where we trained all the girls and all the guys. So I worked hard, because I was still so, I'm going to make it. And I finally won Bill over, but I told him later, I said, you were always like the father that I could, never, impress or win over, because nothing I ever did, he never popped for it. And he ended up getting a kick out of my athleticism, like later on down the road, because I think that in the beginning he thought that I wasn't trying because I can't jump and I'm not athletic. But eventually he was like, oh my God, Krissy Vaine is not like trying to play a trick on me. She's not being lazy. She really can't jump and she's really not athletic. So he ended up getting a kick out of it later when we'd have to be doing, calisthenics or, whatever. And here I am, like the uncoordinated one, like falling all over the place. But anyways, Deep South was a great experience. And when they shut us down, it nearly killed me. But at that point, you just do what you do. And we just went from Atlanta to Tampa. So it was hard, and it was fast, and it was crazy. But Atlanta was probably like one of the best times of my life. I also met Ryan there, who is my fiance, who also asked for his release at the same time that I did. And we met in Atlanta. So that's kind of cool, too.
And a lot of people seem to assume that yourself and Ryan, you requested your release because you didn't think you were going to be on the same brand when you were called up. And is there any truth to that?
No, there's not. The funny thing about us asking for our release is that it didn't happen overnight. It was something that I'd venture to say that pretty much when Deep South shut down, we both it hurt us so bad because we were just so close with that group there. There's just not, you just can't even explain it when you're working and training with these people, and then you build these friendships and these relationships. And I think that the night that we got shut down, we really learned just how kind of corporate and brutal that WWE could be. And I mean, there was a lot of people fired that night, and Joe didn't have a clue, and Bill, it was just crazy. So I think at that point, like, my eyes kind of opened up, like, wow, like, if they treat them like that, they definitely treat me like that. And so I think that I kind of started, like, really keeping my eyes open. And they also told Angel that she would not be fired. They said, oh, we're not getting rid of any talent. We're going to be, everybody's going to have their jobs. We're just getting rid of this training system or whatnot. And it was like, okay. We were still kind of all on pins and needles. And then they let Angel move to Louisville and fired her like 2 or 3 days after she'd gotten there. I mean, and the girl had like a year lease on her apartment. They just decide that they don't like the way maybe somebody looks or the way that they act or what. It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know. That's one of those things that you can kind of only go by hearsay, but you don't know. I mean, look at the two of them now. They're doing great. So obviously it was, WWE's loss, and those girls can work. I mean, and what's so funny is that I was always the worst worker out of any of those girls. I was the worst. I've got more of a character than anything. Athleticism-wise and work-wise, I was the worst. And I was like, why do I still have my job? Like, this is ridiculous. But obviously, it's not all about how you can work and if you can jump over the top rope, because I sure cannot. And if you can, obviously there's more to it than that, but I don't know. I'm just glad that they're doing really good now. But I mean, Angel was freaking, it was hard. She was heartbroken. And I mean, Angel loved wrestling. So she's like, wrestle. Like, I don't know. It just, and it broke her into a million pieces. And I'm so glad to see her, doing as well as she's doing now, because she's just, she went through a lot, and Chantel did too. It's just that, I don't know, it was just a little bit of a different situation when somebody lets you move to a new place and, you're there for just a couple of days before they let you go. And it's like you're in a new place with complete strangers. And now you're an outcast, because as soon as you don't have a contract anymore, nobody wants to talk to you. So,
really?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because it's so political. I mean, I thought that there was a lot of people that I thought were my friends, and when I asked for my release, I went to the Bella twins were my best friends in Tampa, and Chantel also. But I went to a party a couple of days after I asked for my release, and I knew it would be awkward, but I really felt like that it would be people wouldn't treat me differently, like, because they knew me. I mean, I had been with them for the last few years. And there was certain people there who acted like they did not even know me, had never seen me before, did not even know me. So I count, the few people that I stayed in contact with and that never lost contact with me and like me for Kristen Eubanks and not Krissy Vaine and what Krissy Vaine can do for them, I hold very near and dear to my heart.
It just shows how tense that work environment is, and people are that paranoid that they don't want to talk to someone who is released.
Right. Well, I had dinner with, it was so funny because I had dinner with a few friends when they were in town, like last year or something, and we were at a restaurant. I know it was probably 30, 45 minutes away from the Coliseum, but these people that I was having dinner with were so paranoid that there was somebody sitting there, like, listening to us or talking to us, that they were whispering. And I'm like, guys, like, we're really far away from, like, everywhere. Like, nobody's going to hear you. Nobody's going to... And they're, like, whispering. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
So what would the repercussions
I can be who I am.
But I don't understand. What would the repercussions be for, for someone who's under contract to talk to someone who's not under contract? Like, what is it that they're afraid of?
It's, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. It's like you're not going to get any heat for it, but people are going to treat you differently because of it. Like maybe say if Michelle doesn't like me and because the Bellas are my friends, maybe they're hanging out with me and Michelle's going to not be nice to them. And that didn't happen. I'm just using that as an example. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
yeah.
That type of thing.
Like high school.
Like high school.
Yeah.
High school is not even the word. It's more like kindergarten. High school's not even the word. Get me going on to some other things. But yeah, I mean, it's really bad. And I know that you asked me about Ryan and myself, but no, that had been, the whole release thing had been a long time coming. What's so funny is that he had been on the road for a few months before me and was just miserable. But you feel stuck. I mean, you really, really feel stuck, and I didn't want him to ask for his release. I didn't want him to quit. I mean, I've never quit anything before in my life, and neither has he, and so there's this stigma with quitters, and I didn't want to be that, and he didn't want to be that. But, I mean, I was, once we got to Tampa, I had to be medicated. I was so depressed and so sad. I had a medication for Xanax, and I had an antidepressant pill, and that was what I had to take to get through my days, and I'm a happy person. I've never had to be on anything like that, and I've never had any issues with not being happy or being sad or being depressed, but I would cry all day long, every day, because you just feel like it's so much pressure to have to be perfect, and that is what they expect of you. They told one girl that I know that they're only looking for perfect 10s, and she wasn't one. So that was, that was the reason for her release. And it's like, hello, like anybody can go out.
I'm just saying, it just sounds like the modeling business instead of the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot what it's like now, though.
Oh, totally. And so, I mean, I truly believe that the only reason I stayed around there was because I did have a modeling background, and I did do that type of thing. I truly believe that is the only reason why I kept my job for as long as I did, because I did have that type of background. I was one of the few quote unquote wrestler girls, but I had also done modeling for years, and it's actually, which it didn't work out so much in my favor. But I had given up modeling at like 19 to start into the wrestling world because I was so enamored by it. But it ended up kind of shooting me in my own foot, because when I started having my tryouts for WWE, it's like I had a modeling resume, but nothing was too terribly updated, and all they were looking for was models that they could turn into wrestlers. Because I had become a wrestler myself, then I stayed in developmental longer, and you're expected to train the models, which I never minded. I mean, I love pretty women. Not to sound like a lesbian or anything, but I love pretty women. I'm never intimidated by them, and I want everybody to do well, and I want everybody to succeed. I mean, I hung out with the most beautiful girls there, and I never had any bit of anything. Natty and I both trained Bree and Nicole, and look how good they're doing. And it's just and we've all remained close. Natty is awesome too, but it's just, I don't know, it's very much like kind of a secret society. Like, you have no idea until you're there. That's why when I quit, I turned off my computer because I was like, I can't read what people are saying about me because it's not true. Like, it hurt my feelings even worse than what was already so hard enough because people were saying, like, these really, like, mean and nasty things about me, and I was like, this just isn't true. And I couldn't talk then because I was too bitter and sad. You know, a few years later, you can talk about it because you can look back at it objectively and not be like, oh, well, this and that. And, you know, I know that there was some stuff that I was too paranoid about that I took to heart that I shouldn't have. But there are some things, you know, that I can look back and be like, yeah, wow, she really did treat me like crap. And, you know, she could have really helped me, or he could have really helped me, or, you know, whatever. But it's just what happened. But with this, I keep getting sidetracked. You'll notice this about me with my ADD. I jump from subject to subject. But the thing with Ryan, he was on the road. I wasn't, to answer that question finally. He was on the road. I wasn't. I was looking to move my cosmetology license from North Carolina to Florida. I was fed up. I was done. It felt like Groundhog Day every day, and my life was going nowhere, and I was getting nowhere quick, and I was not having fun. I didn't enjoy wrestling anymore. When it's crammed down your throat 365 days a year, crammed down your throat because you can't get away from it because you live there. They've moved you away from your family and your friends and, you know, everything that is normal to you. It's crammed down your throat, so I hated it. I mean, my last probably 6 months there, I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is not me. It's not me to have to be fake every day, and it's not me to have to live so selfishly because you do. You have to live very selfishly because you're always watching your back, and you're always kind of, okay, well, what can I do next to get myself over? Like, whether it's with management or whether it's on TV or, you know, whatever. And so I was actually on the phone with State Board of Cosmetology for North Carolina. I was trying to get everything moved over to Florida because I'm a hairdresser. And it was so crazy because the rumors about me getting fired had come out a few days prior to on the Internet. And John had actually gone up to my fiance at TV and said, has Krissy been reading the Internet? And Ryan said, I don't know. And of course I had been, and I was like, good, then I'll get my 3 months, you know, like I was like, good, maybe they'll fire me, I'll get my 3 months, because you get 3 months compensation if you're let go. If you quit, you get nothing. So, anyways, John said, oh, tell her that none of that's true, and that, you know, that I don't know where that came from, but that's not going to happen. And I think John always looked out for me because I think that he saw me as like this little, like, glass, like this little glass, like, bubble, like so easy to break. Like, it was so he really looked out for me. So Ryan called and he said, you've been reading what's on the Internet? And I said, yes, and apparently I'm getting fired. And he said, oh, well, John just came up to me and told me, you know, not to tell you that that's not the case and to not worry about that. And I said, oh, okay. I still didn't believe it. But so Ryan was on the road for a few months, and then I was looking to do other things, but you can't just quit because your paychecks stop. So I was looking to kind of get into my cosmetology and stuff and stay in Florida. I wanted Ryan to continue with what he was doing, and because I felt like he was the biggest talent, and not to be biased because I can look at it and say, oh, well, that guy's more talented than him, but he was at that time the most talented person in the developmental system. And so I didn't want him to give that up just because, you know, I was so miserable and depressed and pilled up and, you know, medicated and just a hot mess of that. And so I was on the phone with the State Board of Cosmetology, and I was on hold with them, and a 203 number starts beeping in on my phone. And I'm like, that's the office, it's Connecticut. I'm like, well, here we go, I'm getting fired. So I clicked over. So I clicked over, and it's Howard Finkel, and he's like, Krissy. And I'm like, yes. And he's like, Howard Finkel here. And I'm like, hey. And he's like, Krissy, I have good news. And I'm like, what? And I was like, what? And he's like, you're going on the road. It wasn't the next day. It was the next day, like 2 days, like 48 hours. And I was like, what? There had been no talk of in developmental. There had been no talk of me going up. There had been no nothing. And this is what happens with everybody. I was so unprepared. He's like, "You're going on the road," and I'm like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Friday," and I'm like, huh, "What? What's going on?" And so I kind of hung up, kind of like dumbfounded, because here I am, I'm trying to find a way to get out. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm getting brought up to television."
Mm.
And so Ryan and I sat there and had the conversation. He's like, "Well," and I'm like, I don't want to go. I like cried the whole next 2 days. Like literally, I bawled my eyes out for the next 2 days. And I'm like, "I don't want to go." I'm like, "I feel stuck." And he's like, "Well, you should just go." He's like, "It might be different once you get there." And I'm like, "No, really, I'm over this. I don't want to go." And he's like, "Honey," he's like, you need to go. He's like, "There will always be that what if you don't." And I said, "Oh, geez Louise." So I took my Xanax, I put them in my bag, and I went. And before that, a writer had called me, like somewhere in between those 2 days. DJ, one of the writers for SmackDown, had called me, and he kind of gave me a little bit of an idea of what I would be doing, that I would be coming in. It was either Tori was wanting to retire or she was wanting to take some time off, and I don't remember which one it was, but basically I was supposed to take her out for a while, if not for good. And it was supposed to be like a kind of, I don't want to say step into the throne because she's way too big of a star for me to even say that, but I was supposed to do good things on SmackDown. So, but it wasn't fun. I don't remember how I got to all those shows, by the way. It's so white trash. I had a energy drink in one hand, popping Xanax in the other, with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth. Okay, talk about North Carolina hillbilly coming out. Yeah. So I went in the first week, and we watched it on TV. And I wasn't excited. I wasn't excited backstage. My outfit was god-awful. Let me get to that. Okay, let me tell you all about that god-awful outfit.
Sorry, if I could just interrupt, because I remember, because I do Tori's official fan site, so I was looking forward to that, because I was like, yes, Tori's finally going to get a storyline, and it aired, and I think one of the very first things I remembered, and it kind of overshadowed the really cool attack that you did on Tori, the outfit.
I look like a Christmas clown. You don't have to tell me. I know it.
And the first thing that popped in my mind when I saw it was Santa's Little Helper. That's exactly what it reminded me of.
I can't hear you, Steven. Speak up.
It reminded me of Santa's Little Helper when I saw it. That's the first thing I thought about.
Oh, so funny. Now, y'all keep in mind that I was heavily Xanax at this point, okay, and I was not thinking clearly. Okay? So anyways, so that was, the outfit was the start of an outfit. I had a concept in my head for developmental, because we weren't doing TVs down in developmental yet, so it really wasn't a rush with the seamstress lady, who, you're not allowed to use seamstress ladies for WWE unless you're, like, over. So I couldn't ask her. So you have to find somebody outside of, like, you can't use the seamstress ladies with WWE if you're just under contract. Like, you have to be, like, an established person to ask them to do anything for you.
That could be why most of the girls, we criticize them, because they can't get good outfits from the seamstresses.
Right. Totally true. So I'm going to shed some light on this. So a lot of us had to find, like, until you're established and until you're quote-unquote over, you cannot ask, same with hair and makeup. You cannot ask to get your hair and makeup done. You cannot get your hair and makeup done. You cannot get your outfits done by, like, the people that work for them that are there, because they're there for the big stars. They're not there for you. So I had a girl in Tampa making my stuff, and she was just kind of taking her time, because actually she does the outfits for TNA. So she was just taking her time, and I called her, and I'm like, I have bad news. I'm like, that outfit has to be ready, like, in a day, because I've got to go. And she's like, what? Because she's got, like, 100 million outfits she's got to do. So I think we tried it on, and it fit, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. But she was like, we'll fix it in the future. And I didn't have anything. I mean, you don't make very much money in developmental, so it's not like I could go out and spend like hundreds of dollars on clothes. First of all, we weren't doing TV in Tampa. What I did at Deep South was not going to be conducive to what I was doing in Tampa because I had like all business kind of type stuff in Deep South. So you kind of have to start over with every character. We weren't making hardly any money. So I just took what Jolene had made me and wore it that night. Big mistake. Big mistake, but I don't know. It's kind of all a blur anyways, but I didn't really have anything as it was. And that was kind of in the process of something that could have been cool. We just did the wrong colors to start, and it just wasn't good. So
that's the story behind the outfit.
Sorry to the fashion world. I get to go on one of the wrestling top 10. I'm already on the top 10 worst diva or whatever, most useless divas. I'll go on the worst outfits.
That's probably a list that we would make. I think that's how we do that thing.
I'm just a big fat loser, but I'm okay with it. So.
But the great thing though is you don't take it seriously, and you're able to poke fun at it. And that's the thing.
Yeah. No, Ryan and I laughed. He's like, "You look like a Christmas elf." He's like, "What is that?" I was like, I don't know. But when I watched it, he was more excited than I was, and he's like, "Are you excited?" I'm like, "Not really." And he's like, "You're not excited to see yourself on television?" I was like, really kind of unfazed. And he was like, "Wow," and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, and it didn't even look like me. That to me does not even look like me, and I don't know who that person was. I guess it was like a broken shell of me, but it just wasn't. It wasn't. And then they tried to bring me in as a wrestler, like a wrestler's wrestler, and I was like, "Have you guys not been watching what I do? I don't do anything." And the agents are like, "Oh, you're gonna come in and you're gonna do this and you're gonna do this," like this big brute, and I'm like, "Yeah, they don't know who I am. I don't do this stuff. This is definitely not me." But I did it because that's what I was told to do, and you just do what you're told to do. But that definitely wasn't even me, character-wise. I'm a priss pot. That is who I am. I'm a priss pot. That was not me to come and be in all grr, I'm tough. No.
With the angle with Tori Wilson, you said that it was either she was looking to retire or to take some time out, which she eventually did do. Was that the main goal, or were you going to have a program with her where she's going to come back and have a program with her and then her go out that way?
Yeah, I think that was the way that it was supposed to be. I don't know for sure. From what I understood, but you see, these things change on a daily basis.
We can tell because the TV is just so random every week. It's one thing and then the next, and it makes us crazy.
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane. Imagine living it. I'm really sensitive, so living that every day was such a roller. I just couldn't handle it. Mentally, I was not tough enough. I would be different now because I've lived it, I've done it, and I've recovered from it. But then going out, I'm 25 years old, or 24, 25 at the time. I've never been outside of my little North Carolina bubble of family and friends, and you go into the Shark Tank. And it's literally a Shark Tank. And I just got eaten alive. That's the only way that I know how to put it. But the thing with Tori, it was supposed to be, from what I understand, which was such an honor for me because I always looked up to her so much, but that they wouldn't hire me for a long time because they said that I looked too much like her, and that's why the dark hair. That's why the darker hair. That's why the darker hair came about. When I was in developmental, I had darker hair, but it was supposed to be a little sister type thing. What's funny is they tell me, "Oh, you look like Tori. You look like Tori. You look like Tori." We already have one of those for a year. I get my augmentation and I darken my hair. I'm hired immediately. Literally, I wasn't even wrestling again, and I was already hired. And what's so funny is that after I got set up with a system, and after I got set up with having to try to fit into some sort of mold, because I just was like, screw it, I'm me, take me for who I am. I went back blonde again, was Krissy Vaine is blonde, always has been, always will be, you know, and just started doing what I wanted to do, that's when I got called up to television. The whole time that I had tried to do what they wanted me to do, and the whole time that I had tried to live by the system and really cared and thought about whether I was going to make it to TV or not, and like, oh, every day it was like this, you know, hard work, hard work, hard work. Well, I'll tell you that I made it to TV when I was like, F this, over it, going back blonde, I'm going to be who I am, and nobody's going to tell me who to be.
When you were called up to, you were called up to television, what were some of the ideas that they told you that they had for you? Obviously taking up.
They don't tell you anything.
Oh, really?
They don't tell you anything. I had no clue. Well, he called me before I left Tampa and was like, okay, this is what we're going to do with Tori, you know, you're going to debut Tuesday, which is Thursday, or it was Thursday, and now it's Friday, right? SmackDown. We're going to have you do a program with Tori Wilson. And I'm thinking, wow, isn't that funny? After all this time, you know, oh, you look too much like Tori. We have one of those, which is a huge honor to me because I don't think I look like her. I think she's so beautiful and perfect in every way that I'm like, you think I look like her? Really? Okay, anyways. But they don't tell you anything. I went the whole day. Nobody said a word to me. Nobody in charge. Nobody, you know, doing anything. And, I mean, I'm just trying to stay out of the way because you're really, when you're new, you really just try to stay out of the way and not piss anybody off. Because if you piss somebody off, they'll take a pee in your bag or they'll throw your stuff outside or, you know, there's things that are done. So I just tried to stay out of the way that day. And I guess it was maybe Victoria or Tori who came up to me and said, do you know what you're doing tonight? I said, I have no clue. And he said, well, you're going to do this thing at the end of our match. And I was like, what? And then that's when one of those girls who, bless their hearts because they are so sweet, went and got one of the people in charge and said, you know, direct this girl, like tell her what she's doing, like give her a little bit of like something. And that's how I found out what I was doing. But it was only about 2 hours before the show.
So is it always like that with all the new superstars? Do they just kind of like book it on the fly like that?
From my understanding, yes. From almost all stories that I've heard, yes, it is like that. They may have like, because there's so many like Indians and one chief that he stays behind the scenes so often that you don't really see too much of him. So you're dealing with all the Indians, and all the Indians have different ideas of what's supposed to be going on. And
you know,
so it's kind of a constant. Yeah, it's kind of a constant battle, and it's like whoever's the best politicker wins.
Wow. This sheds a lot of light on what's been going on TV as of late. That makes a lot of sense when you put it that way.
Mhm. Yeah, I had no idea. They didn't tell me what to wear. They told me also the very next day they wanted me in streetwear, but nobody.
They tell you after the fact.
Nobody bothered to tell me.
That's helpful.
Yeah, and they told me after the fact. You wore the wrong outfit. Well, yeah, I wore the wrong outfit. I was like a freaking Christmas clown. Yeah, I wore the wrong outfit, obviously. But no, you wore the wrong outfit. We wanted you in street clothes, like jeans and like a t-shirt, or like, you know, something like that looked like you were coming from the audience, or like just street clothes, like not recognizable, like not like I'm a wrestler. Nobody told me that. I walked around backstage for an hour in my wrestling clothes, and nobody told me that.
Wow.
So it's just kind of funny. It's just really funny how all that happens. I don't know. It's the strangest experience I have ever been a part of. I mean, really, it's the strangest experience I have ever been a part of. But it taught me so much about real life and about just how to get by in real life. And it taught me a lot about kindness too, because believe it or not, like, I've changed so much. I was not, a few years ago, the person that I am now is not who I was a few years ago. A few years ago, it was all about me, and I didn't give a crap about anybody. And now I think because of what I went through with them and, you know, the being kind of broken down to, like, nothing and having my feelings hurt a lot, it really made me very compassionate and not, like, that's why I love what I do on a daily basis now, because I get to make women feel beautiful and I get to make people feel better about themselves. And so for so long, I tried to keep up and tried to be, you know, whatever they wanted me to be, and it's such a selfish kind of vicious circle and cycle also. And, now I'm just like, I get to give back every day in that kind of way, because I'm good at stuff like that, obviously. Hair, makeup, all that kind of stuff you learn how to do, and you learn how to do it well. And so I get to kind of like make all my clients feel beautiful and give them kind of a jump start for their day or whatnot. And I didn't appreciate my job before I worked there, and now I appreciate like what my trade for a living is.
So coming off of experience like that, has it like tainted your views on wrestling in general, like for any promotion?
The indies are so much fun. It's not like that on the independents for the most part. I mean, there may be, and I guess it's just because everybody's trying to make money, and if you're doing that for a living and that's what you completely, like, solely rely on, I guess that you tend to be really scared and paranoid that somebody else is going to come up and take your spot. So I guess it brings out the ugly in everybody. But, I love the independents, and I'm working the independents now just for fun, just because I enjoy it. It gives me kind of a release on the weekends. I still get to perform and do what I love, but I've never really seen the independents like that. I mean, for the most part, and you have to think, in order to make it to the top, you got to do something to make it to the top. So some of those people stomp their way, and so then you're dealing with people that aren't maybe like the greatest people or the greatest people of virtue or whatnot. And I think the people in the independents just do it because they love it. And, yeah, they'd love a chance to make it to the big show, or they'd love a chance to make it. But, A, they don't know how, and, B, they're not sharks. You have to be a shark to be at that level. And I can do it, but it doesn't make me happy on the inside. So that was why I had to do what I did.
You mentioned that you were heavily medicated, and how long were you medicating, and how did that affect your in-ring work, and how did it just affect you in general in a work environment?
Believe it or not, my in-ring work was pretty unaffected. I mean, if you do that every day for like 6 or 8 hours, every day for like years, then it kind of becomes like second nature. Like, I can get in there now and not have to talk about a thing, and it just it's like riding a bicycle. So it didn't really affect my everyday type thing as far as wrestling goes. It affected how I let people affect me. I kind of put myself, because I wasn't taking them as I was supposed to. I was popping like 2 every 2 to 4 hours, like just to be in a bubble to where I didn't feel anything. So you feel it's just numb. And like I said, I don't remember how I got to those shows, like to the house shows and to the TVs, because I did 2 TVs. Nobody ever knows the second one that I did, but I actually did an interview with Vicky Guerrero, but it was so like condensed because I think that they knew I was pretty much not going to be there for very much longer. It was so chopped up that nobody ever talks about that. But it just made me be in a bubble. And if somebody said something like mean or nasty, or somebody hurt my feelings, I was just like, I didn't feel it. I was just like, whatever. I'm in a bubble. I don't care. I hate my life. I want to die. Like that type of thing. But the day that I quit, and I hate to say quit, but that's what I did. The day that I quit and the day that Ryan and I quit, I stopped taking everything. And later I found out I could have died, which I didn't know that if you come off that stuff cold turkey that you could die. But yeah, I could have died from not taking it. I didn't know. You're supposed to wean yourself off of that kind of stuff. But when we sent our release letters, we sent them at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I turned my phone off. Woo, I felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off of me. I turned my phone off. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Ryan did the same. He sent his release letter before I did, actually. I didn't have enough balls to send mine. But when I got off the plane from North Carolina, I had flown home to kind of, after my first week of house shows and TV, kind of to get some clarity and to try to, I needed to be around my family and the people that had known me forever and kind of get some outside information, because the wrestler's never going to tell you the truth. So, I read sometimes the interviews that you guys do, and I think sometimes people are truthful, and I think sometimes people know how to politic so good that they're just like, they know exactly what to say to trick people. Anyways, So I came back home to get some clarity where I could be around the people that had been here with me since I was, teeny tiny, and to be around people that I knew loved me for me and not for what I had done or what I was doing. And I had a sit down. I went to church and just weird stuff, and just I knew after coming home and being around people who really loved me and seeing my mom is crying and my dad's tearing up, I don't know. Anyways, can't talk about that because I'm gonna cry. But it's just I knew it was time for me to go. And Brian was in kind of the same position that I was. He was really unhappy and was really depressed and really sad. And his father had just had a stroke, also, which was another thing that had just happened. And I had a grandfather pass away while I was gone, and I had my mom was sick at one point, and my dad was sick at one point for my dad was in the hospital for 2 or 3 weeks, and he was really, really sick. And what happens when you go to people and when you're with a huge corporation like that, it's television, and it's live every week. So guess what? You don't miss it. So you're going to miss a lot of stuff at home. So even being in developmental, they look at you, and they were always really good, in Atlanta, because my dad got sick when I was in Atlanta. Bill was go. I mean, no questions asked. He was go. And I was okay. And I drove home, but, being in Tampa, it's a little harder. And then if you're, God forbid, at TV or in Europe or whatever, I mean, you can't come home. I mean, I don't care if your dad or your mom is on their deathbed. You can't. You can't. And and some people can politically. It just depends on where you stand. I was not there, so I couldn't. And it ate me alive. It ate me alive. And I asked for my release probably so abruptly. I could have handled 1 or 2 days on the road a week, but I was supposed to go to Europe for 3 weeks. And I was no, no, no. No, no, no. I cannot leave for that long. And it ended up being a really good thing because I came home to North Carolina a few days after. I was supposed to be in Europe when I got this call that my grandfather had cancer, and they had just found out throat cancer. And so I came home for that. It was about 2.5 weeks, so it would have been like me going to Europe because I left Ryan in Tampa, poor thing. Probably the worst thing I could have ever done because he's just lost his career and kind of lost in life because we were both lost. We didn't know what we were going to do. Had no clue. I had a trade. I've been doing hair since I was 18. So, yeah, I could go back and do that. But, we had no clue what we were going to do. And I came here through my grandfather's surgery and made sure that he was on his road to recovery. And then we went back to Tampa. Ryan stayed in Tampa and just kind of supported me throughout that whole thing. And then we talked about it, and we decided we needed to get away from that atmosphere and that lifestyle because it wasn't what we needed to be if we were going to kind of break free from it, and we needed a fresh place to start over. So I said, Fort Lauderdale, North Carolina, which one? Because his family's in Fort Lauderdale, and he said, North Carolina, I want you to be near your family. And so we came here.
I wanted to ask, when you were in FCW and you were doing, you were medicating and stuff, aside from Ryan, did you let anybody else know how you were feeling, or did you try and cover it up so they wouldn't try and use it against you politically or something?
Yes and no. You really, when you're there, I went and I trained, and that was pretty much it. The only people that I saw outside of the just the training building was Natty and the twins. And the twins were like my freaking rocks the whole time. They knew everything. And so did Natty, but Natty didn't live in the same place as I did, so she wasn't, quite as accessible. But yeah, the twins knew everything, and those girls were my freaking. I tell them now, I'm like, how did you put up with me? I was a mess. I'm like, how are you even my friend? But that just goes to show you what the people they are, because they were always there. If I called them, crying, or we used to walk every day. It would be our therapy sessions. We'd walk for we lived on the the bay, so we had this beautiful 4-mile walk. So I would walk with these girls every day, and we just all kind of let out everything. And I don't know how they put up with me. I really don't. Because now I'm back to being me. And I met them kind of in the midst of not being me at my worst. Like the dark side of me that I like to keep pushed down. I like to keep my life happy, so that's not me. And they knew. They were loyal and never turned their back on me and never judged me and never were always there to be my friend or a shoulder to cry on or, anything like that. And Natty the same. And in fact, I'll tell a story about Natty real quick. Natty and I were really good friends. Natty loves wrestling. When I say loves wrestling, she loves wrestling, like eats, sleeps, and breathes it. And I used to, but by the time I had the time that I had there, and I was just over it. So having to get up and do Groundhog Day all over again every day can be a bit trying. That's why there's no talent to come out of developmental, because you feel like Groundhog Day, so you lose all ambition to do anything outside of the box or to be special in any way because you're just trying to get through. And so I went into training one day, and I don't know what had happened. I was in rare form, and I'm never mean. I'm never rude. I don't ever smart off or jump back at anybody. And Natty, I did not want to train that day. This was near the end. This was within the last probably month. I mean, I was all filled up, whatever. And so Natty's like, "Come on, Krissy, let's train." And I'm like, "No." She's like, come on, Krissy. She's like, "Really, come on, Krissy, let's do this, let's do that." And I said, "Natty," I said, "if you don't leave me the F alone," I said, "I effing hate wrestling." I said, "I effing hate this place, and I effing hate being here." I said, "So you can just leave me the F alone." And it was like a demon talking, like, I don't even know. I mean, that is not me. And she just was like, "Oh, okay, well, okay, I'm gonna," and then she walked away and started dealing with somebody else. But and it was awful because I felt so bad. Once I got home, I called her, and we were tight. And I was her first match in developmental, and I was one of the few girls that was nice to her. She dealt with a lot of things that I did too. Coming in, nobody was nice. And so I helped her through her first match, and I was the veteran at that point, and so I treated her well, and so we built a bond. And so for me to talk to her like that, she was like, "Oh, I know something's wrong with Krissy Vaine. I just don't know what's going on." And so I called her later on that day, and we talked, and I apologized for everything. That's not me to act like that. And she was like, "Oh, it's okay. I totally understand." She was so cool, but it was a mean, nasty thing for me to do.
So at the end, you when you requested your release, tell us what happened when you spoke to Johnny Ace.
Oh, well, I had come home, and Ryan and I had talked, and the second I got off the plane, he knew what my decision was going to be, and he said, "I'm with you, whatever you want to do." And I said, "I am done." I said, "I'm done with this place." I said, "You do what you want to do." I said, "I'm done." And he said, "Me too." He said, "I'm done too." And I said, "Okay." So we went to Dunkin' Donuts, and we got donuts and snacks and stuff, and we went back to the house, and we decided that we should write resignation letters to kind of explain everything, because it's really hard maybe when you're trying to vocalize something to somebody, especially when they're in power and as broken as, especially me. He's more harder than I am on the exterior, but I mean, I would have not gotten through one sentence without babbling and crying all over the place. So we decided we needed to write resignation letters. So we did, and they were very nice, and it was just telling the truth. It was basically because that company is really good for some people. It just wasn't meant for me. And so we wrote our resignation letters, and we both had them sitting on the computer, and he's like, "You want to send it?" I said, "Oh, God." I said, "I don't think I can." And he was like, "You want to send that?" I was like, "Uh-uh." I was like, "You do it." And he was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And so he sent his. And so then that gave me enough courage to send mine. But here's the funny part. Guess who's went through and guess who's didn't? Ryan's did not go through. Mine did.
Wow.
So, anyways, we're like, woo, we feel good, woo, released, woo, glad that's over with. And so, we went to bed. We turned off our cell phones because obviously we're going to be getting phone calls the next day. Turned our phones off. I was supposed to leave for a European tour, like in 3 days or something, like really soon after that. So we turned off our phones. We went to sleep. We didn't wake up, I don't think, till like 12 or 1 o'clock the next day. Well, I did not want to turn on my phone, neither did he. Well, it was weird because I had a couple of messages, and he didn't have anything. And I was like, gosh, that's strange. You would think they would call both of us. And so he was like, it was John. He was like, call him back. And John, he's so laid back. He's like, Krissy, he's like, I don't know what's going on. He's like, Johnny A's here. Call me back. I was like, shit. I knew it wasn't going to be that easy. So I called him and I talked to him basically just like how I'm talking to you guys. I was just very honest. I said, John, I said, you, and he was very, very good to me. Always very honest, very upfront. He was very good to me during my time there. Ryan also, he was a stand-up kind of guy to us. Now, I can't speak for anybody else or anything else, but everybody kind of has their own stories about different people. And he was always amazing to us, but we were his hires. So if he hires you, he kind of has a special place in his heart for you, rather than, like, say, Mike Bucci or Tommy Dreamer, whoever hiring you. Like, if you're John's hire, like, he kind of has a special place for you or whatever. So he said, Krissy, what's going on? And I said, I don't really know. I said, I just think that I need to ask for my release. And he said, what? Why? You're in the middle of a huge push. And I said, well, I just really don't think that this is a good place for me. I said, my heart's not in it anymore. And I was telling the truth. My heart's not in it anymore. And there's a lot of people who would want to be where I'm at. And I think that I should give that spot to somebody else who wants to be there. I said, because I don't. And he said, he was so nice. He said, this business isn't for everybody. And I said, you're right. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I am. Meanwhile, the whole time I'm like, why is he not saying anything about Ryan? This is so weird. I'm like, he hasn't mentioned a word. And so he says, he's like, we'll grant you your release. And I was like, thank you so much. I said, do you need me to come back and finish my storyline? I said, do you need me to come back and finish what was started? I said, because I'd be more than willing to do that. He said, I don't know. He said, let me talk to Stephanie. He said, and I'll see. And Stephanie is really, really nice, too. And he said, let me talk to Stephanie and, see what we can come up with. He's like, but I think you'll be okay. And I said, okay, thank you. And he started to hang up, and I was like, I was like, Ryan needs to talk to you. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, he sent you a letter, too. And I'm like, and he needs to talk to you. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, he's like, I have a meeting I'm going into right now. He's like, I'll call him in an hour. So we hung up, and then he called Ryan in an hour, and then Ryan went and talked to him about all the stuff that was going on with him and his family and his dad and, all that kind of stuff. And so they had a nice talk, too. He treated Ryan as graciously as he did myself. And it was, it was a nice, pleasant, easy conversation. Oh, he did ask me if anybody did anything to me. He said, is there something that somebody's doing to you? Or, is somebody, like, is there something going on in the locker room that I don't know about? And I said, no. I said, not at all. I said, it's not that at all. And it really didn't have anything to do with any of that outside politics crap. I said, it's just me. I'm just really unhappy, and I can't live my life being unhappy. A lot of people can, but I just can't, and I won't, because I know that I have other choices. So that was basically that, and we were done. And we got our release letters like a few days later. We stopped getting paid. That sucked. It wasn't a lot. At least it was a paycheck. And so that was pretty much that. And then, like I said, I got the phone call about my granddad, and I left Tampa like 2 days later and was gone for like 2.5 weeks.
Tell us what Stephanie's like.
It's kind of weird. Kind of like an omen. Like, I didn't need to go to Europe because my granddad, who I'm so close with, like, got really sick, like, all of a sudden. And, like, so it was kind of a really, like, kind of a blessing. Like, nobody was sick at the time that we asked for our release, but like directly thereafter, like I needed to be in North Carolina, and that would have not happened if I was still with them.
I was about to ask, what is Stephanie like in person? And because there's there's a lot that's said about her. What are your personal experiences of Stephanie?
She's wonderful. She's so beautiful in real life. TV doesn't do her a bit of justice. She's beautiful and she's sweet, but she's business. Like her dad is very business, and they're just business people. But I mean, she's sweet. Like she can see through somebody fake, so she doesn't get with all the politics and stuff. Like she's just very much like get your job done. But she was always very, very, very nice to me, and her mom also very, very nice to me, and Vince was wonderful also. I mean, there was, and I would tell you guys now, like 2 years later, I'm telling you, like looking back objectively, like what was good and what was bad, and they were, that whole family to me was wonderful. I mean, Vince he didn't say a whole lot either, but he came up to me one time. And this was shortly after I had gotten my contract. It wasn't too long afterwards. And he said, I was out there watching, because I was always enamored by the show, like how everything worked, not just, the theatrics and the acting and the wrestling, but like the lights and how they do the shooting of the TV cameras and, where people are standing for certain types of things. So I would watch them in pre-production until, about 6:30 or 7. It's not like I had to be ready for anything. So he came over to me shortly after I got a contract and said, hey, I'm Vince McMahon. And I said, yes, I know who you are. And I said, and he said, and who are you? And I said, I'm Krissy Eubanks. I said, I just got a contract a few weeks ago. I think it was really soon after I got a contract. I said, I just got a contract a few weeks ago, and I said, I'm down in Atlanta. And he said, well, so I'm really glad to have you, Krissy. And he said, you're doing things the right way, And I said, what do you mean? And he said, instead of being back there backstage politicking, because I was like one of the only people out there. Like it was like me and the production people. I was just watching. And two, trying to stay out of the way. Like I did a lot of that, trying to stay out of people's way. So you don't go into the locker room and stuff. If you're not being used, you're just going to take up space in the locker room. It's going to end up pissing people off. So you just don't go in there. And so he said, you're doing things the smart way. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you're out here like a sponge, learning how everything is happening. He said, rather than back there trying to kiss up to the writers or back there trying to, suck up, he said, you're out here trying to learn. He goes, I like that. He goes, I see a lot in you. He goes, I think we'll make a lot of money one day. And I said, I sure hope so. And then he walked away. So, I mean, he was just really, he's just really cool. He was nice and gracious and, kind. And I'm sure had I gotten to know him better that it would have been, they're a nice family. I don't care what anybody says. If you treat them nice and you're not trying to dick them over behind their back, because that's what a lot of people try to do. If they think they're going to get one over on somebody, so they try to go about things the wrong way. As long as you just kind of go about things the right way, then I think that they treat you with nothing but respect.
Backpedaling a little bit.
Television, and they have to make money. It is a business, and they have to make money. So if they don't see something in you, they're going to get rid of you like yesterday's garbage. So that, maybe that's why people get upset with them sometimes.
Well, I have a question. You mentioned how things go down in the locker room. Is there a certain locker room etiquette you have to follow or grow accustomed to
Always.
as a new? Yeah.
Yeah, always. You don't ask the makeup person or the hair person to do your hair and makeup. You don't get in a mirror because that's for the girls who have been there. Like the night that I got ready for SmackDown, I did my hair and makeup in a little itty bitty hand mirror.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't ask for. You stay out of the way. You don't get in the mirrors. You don't. You just keep your stuff out of the way. If your stuff's in somebody, say somebody has a certain place where they always put their stuff in the locker room. If you accidentally put your stuff there, you get your stuff thrown out into the hallway, and you are treated badly from then on out. Yeah, there's a huge locker room etiquette. I never got my stuff thrown out, thank God. But like I said, I stayed out of the way. I didn't even go in there unless I had to. I would try to find a little storage room or a little bathroom somewhere to go into to where I would not have to. I didn't even want a chance getting in the way because I had heard horror stories from some of my girlfriends who had gotten brought up before me, maybe for tryouts or for loops or whatever. And so I had heard horror stories, so I was not chancing that. But yeah, I got ready with a little hand mirror in the corner of the locker room and just tried to stay out of the way.
With the divas today, is very well. They don't really get called up in a prominent role or in a high-profile storyline, or they don't always start as wrestlers on television. Do you ever think, what if, and what could have happened if you'd stayed with WWE? Where do you think you'd be now if you'd still been there?
Well, I might be 6 foot under from all the pills, but no, I don't ever think that, and I think it's because I know that I had my chance, and I know that I was there. I didn't want it. And I know that if I wanted to, we left on really good terms. People think that I read things online saying, they've screwed themselves, they're this, they're that. People don't understand the kind of relationship that we had with that office. And I believe that if we ever wanted to go back, which we wouldn't, either of us, I believe that we could go back. And it's too much. I can't live that life 24/7. I can live it some. I live it some, and I like it some, but I don't like it 24/7. So no, I never, not even once have I ever thought, oh, well, what if? Because I know how sad I was then, and I know how happy I am now, and it's just, no, I've never, ever questioned it. I mean, I know I could have been the best, obviously. I was working with the best my first night in. So, I mean, that is a little bit of, that's something to be proud of, and that's something I'll always be proud of. I'm probably more proud of that now than I was then, because I look back on it now and go, wow, that was really cool. And it was so cool because she was so sweet to me, and Victoria was so sweet to me and stuff, and they were the best of the best of the best, the most beautiful, the most talented, everything, and then they put me in there with them. So I just am thankful for that experience. I'm lucky that I got it, because a lot of people never get that chance and they get let go. Not very many people make it out as developmental. There's a lot of people down in developmental, and not very many people make it out. So I'll always have that.
Looking at the Bella Twins and Natty now, they're both on They're all on. I think the Bella Twins are on ECW, but Natty's on SmackDown. Have you been following them on ECW and SmackDown, and how do you think they're doing?
I haven't been following them. I don't. I had to tell somebody this the other day. It's so funny. It sounds kind of stuck up, but it's really kind of true. I don't really watch it unless I'm involved. So, I go on you guys' site just so I can kind of keep up with what's going on with all the girls. I have no idea what's going on with any of the guys, but just so I can kind of somewhat keep up with what's going on with my friends and stuff. But really, I just look at their outfits and turn it off. So I don't know what's going on with any of that, any of those people. I know that just from when I talked to Natty on rare occasion, and I talk to the Bellas more often. But I know that the Bellas were not being used in a wrestling role for a while, which is good. I mean, why beat up your body for no reason? So no, I don't. What's going on with them?
Well, Stephen, I think you have a couple of questions about Krissy in Shimmer.
Yes, I do. Actually, the first time I actually saw you in the ring was in Shimmer, a couple of years back when I got the DVD. That was before Deep South Wrestling, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So now, Shimmer has really grown. It's like a much bigger thing than it was, and they now have a tag team division. And I know you recently reformed Team Blondage with Amber O'Neil. Is there any chance of you maybe going back to Shimmer, especially with the limited schedule?
Yeah, I ran into ouch, crap! I just closed my hand on the door. I ran into Alice in Danger a few weeks ago, and I actually talked to her about returning to Shimmer. Maybe if they would want me. I told her, I said, I understand if there's not a spot. I said, but I'm taking indie bookings and stuff now. I said, so I would love to come work. And so we'll see what happens there. As far as the Team Blondage thing happens, Amber and I did reform, and we'll tag occasionally, I'm sure. But I'm just going to try to do my own thing right now with that. And I feel like whatever there is left for me to do in wrestling, I kind of need to do it on my own. And so I'm just kind of flying solo right now, if you know what I mean. So I would love to go to Shimmer and do like a single type thing, or, you know, I don't know. Like, I mean, I am taking things, so we'll see what
I know
happens.
a lot of readers have asked, is there interest in going to TNA perhaps? I mean, Angelina Love and Taylor Wilde, Chantel and Angel are there as well.
Yeah, I would love if it worked out where I didn't have to give up my day job. I don't know how their schedule is. I know Angel stays really, really, really busy. I talk to Chantel sometimes, like on Facebook and stuff, but Angel stays so busy. Like, she stays busy like you would if you were with WWE, and I guess that's taken like independence and stuff. I wouldn't want to do that, but if there was a chance for me to just, you know, fly out and do televisions and stuff like that and just kind of keep my schedule to a minimum where I could still do my day job, because I kind of do my day job selfishly. Like, even though I'm helping, you know, I'm helping people and what I do, I get paid well and stuff, that helps how I feel about myself. So I kind of do it like, I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, I can't live in like the wrestling world like 24/7 because it's kind of, for me, it makes me too selfish and I don't like who I am. So I kind of have to keep like some sort of balance of kind of normality and then wrestling. So yeah, I mean, if I could work something out with TNA like that, then I would love to. But otherwise, I don't know. Maybe Shimmer and the Indies are going to be like the best things for me.
I know that TNA does their tapings usually once a month. I think they tape a bunch of their shows at once and then play them throughout the month, so that all these people are flying into Orlando. You know, all these people live all around the world or the country, and then they fly into Orlando to do it once a month, and then they go on and live their lives.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome, because actually I think that they do tape on Sundays and Mondays, and those are like my 2 days. Like, they'll do a pay-per-view on Sundays and they'll tape on Mondays and Tuesdays. So I actually don't work on Sundays and Mondays anyways. So I would only really have to take like 1 day off to be able to do that. So I mean, yeah, that would work out well for me. But you know, there's kind of a stigma attached to me, and I don't know if anybody in TV will ever be interested in me again, and I don't know if I would be interested in them. So I mean, I guess we'll just see what happens. I stopped trying to plan my life like a long time ago because it kind of blows up in my face when I try to plan too much. It never works out how you have originally planned it, because I was going to be a WWE diva. That was all I wanted to be. That was all I was ever going to be. And then I get there, and it's not quite what I thought it was going to be. So, I mean, if you had told me a few years ago that I was going to be back in North Carolina, you know, doing hair, I would have been like, are you crazy? No way. But it's where I'm at, and it's where I want to. It's where I'm at, and it's where I want to be. But so yeah, I stopped trying to plan a long time ago. So we'll just see what happens. Never say never with anything. That's what I've learned.
What we try to ask everybody that we interview is their thoughts on the product right now. Obviously, you had experience. You were doing the independents way before you went into WWE. What do you think about the girls that are models and, you know, get hired by WWE or through the Diva search and things like that? You worked with a few in developmental as well. What do you think about that kind of the diva side of that?
I think TV's TV, and if you're flipping through television, you want to see the most attractive person or something that stands out about that person, no matter who you are. So I think that that's what people who get pissed off about the diva search or get pissed off about models or whatever, that's what they have to understand. And that's kind of what, when I'm working on the indies now and people are like, oh, I'm going to make it to the big show, and I'm like, well, you better get to the gym, and you better get, like, especially girls, like, you have to compete, and if you're not a model, you better look like one, or you'll never get there. So I never held anything against any of those girls, because it's television. What do you expect? I mean, and Vince has his mold, unfortunately. He likes what he likes, and he doesn't stray far from it.
Something that
I was lucky enough to fit inside that mold, but a lot of people don't, and they end up getting their feelings hurt real bad, and they end up hating, you know, everybody who makes it, and it's like, why? Like, go see your local plastic surgeon. It can be done. Like, I mean, there's stuff that you can do.
Something that we've been told by some of the past girls and even a couple of present girls is that there's a lot of competition even more so among the women to stand out, because there's only limited spots for the girls on TV compared to the men. Is it much more competitive for the girls in the industry, do you think?
I think the girls are so much more competitive anyways, because we feel like we've got something to prove. We feel like that as women in this business that we've really got something to prove. That we're just as tough as the guys, and we're just as qualified or whatever. So I think the girls work extra hard anyway, just based solely on that. But do I think there's more competition within the girls? Girls tend to be cattier anyways, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, guys will tell you, like, if they have a problem with you, they'll tell you to your face. A girl will try to bury you behind your back and ruin your career. You know what I mean? And some guys will do that too, but it's just less. It's less likely to happen with a man than it is for a woman. Girls are sneaky. Woo! You gotta watch yourself with some women.
Also in WWE, we've been told that they have a style for the women. They don't want to see them wrestle like the men. One person put it as they want them to wrestle girly. Did they try and change your style, or did they try and change anybody else's style around you? Do you know?
Well, I told you guys, they tried to make me into, like, this brutish wrestler, and I was like, no, I'm a piss pot. Have you guys not seen my stuff? Like, so for me, it was kind of the opposite. I have not, I know, like, what people think, like, as far as, like, what they've heard and stuff, but I think as long as you look beautiful, I think that they don't care if you wrestle like a man. I don't think they want you doing, like, rear chin locks and like holds and stuff for like 5 minutes or anything like that. I think with the girls they like to keep it like more like fast paced. But I think that as long as you look beautiful doing it, it's not no, you can't wrestle like a man or whatever. I think they just want you to look beautiful doing it. And maybe if you do something where you make like an extremely ugly face or you're not beautiful doing it, then maybe they would want you to change it.
Okay, we have some questions from our readers. Paul wants to know, what has been your favorite match of your career so far?
My one with Natty, her first match into developmental, because I felt like that I was such a good leader that night because she was so scared and so nervous, and we didn't talk about a whole lot. They wanted us to just to kind of go out there, and I think that was the match that you guys put up on the site. That was my favorite one because I knew that I really did something special for her that night that helped her feel like, gosh, you know what, I can do this, because we tore the house down that night, and the trainers couldn't say enough good things about it, and Natty felt like, gosh, you know, I got through it or whatever, and she was so scared, and I had been there and done that, and I hadn't been maybe treated the same way, like people didn't want to bring me up, so I was glad that I was able to bring Natty up instead of like how to push her down into her face into the ground like a lot of people try to do.
We've talked about Natty a little bit through emails. I mean, everybody on our team, we are all fans of Natty, and even our readers, they're always like, we want to see Natty get a push, and she's kind of in a manager role right now, and when she first started, she had a title feud, but she's kind of in a manager role right now. We all want to see her pushed. How much more do you think Natty has to bring to the table than she's allowed to show?
That girl is so talented. She's so talented. It's not even explainable. And I think she still goes and trains. Like as many years as she trained in developmental, like I think that she still goes to train like now. And she's got so much more to offer. But what I've seen is those are the people who always get stomped on. Like the ones who like love it so much and like care about it so much. I mean, like I said, that was how I was too. And then the second I was like, you know, F you, WWE, I'm going to do what I want to do. I get like the push of a lifetime, you know? And it was like, it's kind of like an abusive ex-boyfriend. Like they kind of, as soon as you stop paying attention to them, they want you even more. And that's how I feel like that company is. And Natty has got more talent than probably 99% of those girls. And I want to see her succeed. And I mean, she is now, but I'd like to see her get a huge push too. But she's got no manager. She's being wasted. She could lead those green girls through anything. Yeah. So, anyways, that's how I feel about that.
Dylan wants to know which diva is impressing you the most right now.
Well, consider I don't really watch very much. Let me think. Gail Kim, and I'll tell you why. I thought that she was going to get the crap end of the stick, and because switching over from TNA to WWE, you get a lot of times they misuse the people, and they just are like, ha, we stole you away from TNA, whatever. And Gail Kim's doing well for herself, so she impresses me the most right now. To have broken through that, and she's getting a good push, right?
She's doing well right now. I mean, she had a little iffy match, but
she's doing well.
I think we're past that, hopefully. Did you see any of that match?
What happened?
She had a Divas Championship match against Mickie James on Raw, and she kind of knocked herself out during the match, and the end was really botched. They missed the finish.
She knocked herself out.
Yeah, she did a crossbody off the turnbuckle, and she hit her head, and it ended up being that the match, the end of the match, is kind of become infamous among the internet fans now. Steve would like to know, you were the general manager in DSW with Angelina Love. How did that happen, and how was the transition from being a wrestler in DSW to being an on-screen personality as the general manager there?
Oh, I have a theater background, so it was easy. I would much prefer to talk than to wrestle. And that's why, I mean, my wrestling is actually limited. If you really watch my stuff, I'm limited. I do what I do, and what I do well. But I'm not one of those people that's like all technical and, knows hundreds of moves that can do hundreds of things. Like, my strength was always my character and being able to talk. And I guess that comes from having a theater background. But it was an easy transition for me, and I loved it. Like, and then when I did wrestle, it was something funny, like some sort of like funny stipulation. So, like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the thing with the bag lady where she runs across the ring and like hands me a shoe, and then we hit somebody with a shoe. I mean, it was just great stuff. So it was an easy thing for me to do. And actually, I prefer that. I like to wrestle sometimes, but I like to, I like the character part of it. That was what drew me to wrestling. I liked wrestling in like the 80s and early 90s and stuff when it was more character based.
Is there anybody on the WWE or TNA roster that you'd like to wrestle? And that's from Kiki and Sherelle.
If there's anybody from WWE or TNA that I'd like to wrestle? Let me think. I mean, that's kind of a weird question to ask me because I trained with like 90% of those girls, or I knew them on the indies, and all the girls from WWE like are models turned wrestlers, so that's not really that impressive. So I guess I've already done that with girls. You know what I mean? Like, I either trained with them, so we worked really, really closely together, or I worked with them on the indies, which we worked really, really close together. So, I mean, I don't really think that there's anybody like special that I would be like, oh my gosh, I would love to get in there with such and such. I mean, there's really not. So
one of the things that fans have pointed out is the similarities between Team Blondage and the Beautiful People. Obviously, you're friends with Angel. What do you think about that? Just briefly.
We did the thing with Team Blondage. We did that in like 2005, 2006. And we were never on TV. The rule of the game is whoever's on TV first wins. So, whatever comparisons, and I don't watch it steadily. I mean, I've seen a few things, or I've been linked to a few things, but I mean, that was an old character, and it's so easy to do oh, I'm blonde and mean and stupid, and it's just an easy character to do, and in my opinion, it's kind of played out. So, I mean, what I've come back to do this go-around is nothing like what was 2005 and 2006. So, whatever they're doing, regardless of whether it is or it isn't like what we used to do, I mean, it's all water under the bridge. I mean, what are you really going to say? I don't, study it by any means or be like, oh, my gosh, they did this and so did we, or oh, my gosh, we did this and so did they, or whatnot. Sometimes I'm linked to things, but I'm just like, whatever. I mean, I haven't even done anything in a few years anyways. I was out of the game. I'm just now kind of coming back. I mean, what am I going to say? Plus, my new stuff is nothing even comparable So it's all gravy.
So what is your new character that you're developing and you're doing on the indies?
Well, the new thing that I'm doing is just kind of more the best things in wrestling are normally close to your real character. So obviously Vaine, I mean, still very like driven by looks, but the outfit is just beautiful, and it's white and silver and kind of angelic. And you know, we've done like I did like a goddess type photo shoot, and you know, just very soft, because all women wrestlers tend to think they need to look like hard and wear like black pleather and like, you know, need to look tough. And so I wanted to come back, and I wanted to be like the polar opposite of that. And so I thought, why not white? Why not beautiful diamonds and beautiful jewels? And you know, as far as character-wise, I haven't done anything on TV, so you don't really develop your character too much until you get on television. So I guess that I really can't say too much about the character, but basically that's the look, and it could be whatever character it needed to be. But it's just very soft and very feminine, and you know, white, and it's just really pretty rather than trying to look tough.
Speaking of character, do you prefer to play a babyface or heel in the ring?
It doesn't really matter to me. I'll switch back and forth. I like being a babyface on the independents because you tend to do better in gimmick sales. But it doesn't, you know, television-wise, it doesn't matter to me, whichever one. And it's fun to switch it up. I mean, I had the best time of my life playing the stupid Southern Belle kind of Scarlett O'Hara kind of character that we did with Deep South. I mean, that was like the most fun in the world. But I was getting tired of it. Like, as we finished up, I was eventually supposed to turn babyface at Deep South. And Ryan, it was supposed to be like this big love triangle with Angel and Ryan and myself, because he was like the bodyguard, right? I don't know if you guys remember that, but he was like the bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, it was supposed to turn into this big fun thing, but I was getting sick of being heel, so it was going to be fun to kind of turn. But it doesn't matter to me, either one, whatever calls for what, it doesn't matter to me.
You said that characters drew you to wrestling, and you loved the theatrical side of it. What do you think about the girls now who don't really have that much character or personality, and you have an abundance of it?
That's why they'll never be what they want to be. Like, I don't know who wrote the article on the what you need to be a diva. Who wrote that? Was it Aaron?
I think it.
Oh,
It was one of us.
I know Steven.
I think it was.
Melanie, or who was it?
I think there was 2 similar articles recently. I did one, and I think Steven did one as well. It was probably.
Well, whichever one that I read recently was so on point, because you can't be just one thing. You can't be just a wrestler. Television, you have to entertain. You can't be just a wrestler. You can't be just a character because it's wrestling. So you have to be able to wrestle. Like, you have to be such a kind of jack of all trades. And if you can't, Dawn Marie, actually, we were talking about her. She was your first interview. She gave me probably the best advice that I could have ever been given. And she said, this was when I was new into a WWE kind of situation. She said, I kind of asked her, I said, what advice do you have for me as like someone new coming in and who doesn't know anything? She said, change with the business. She said, the business is always changing. She said, you have to change with it. She said, so if you don't, she said, you'll be left without a spot. And it was kind of that I took and went, oh, yeah. And another piece of advice that somebody gave to me, it was actually Undertaker gave to me when I was fresh into a contract also. I think it was at one of my tryouts, one of the last ones that I had before I got a contract. He said, he pulled me to the side after my tryout or whatever and said, you know, it was really good or whatnot. And he said, you know, the one piece of advice I have to you is that this business is about your face. And like he like did like the little square around on his face, and he's like, people have to see that. He's like, so when you're down on the ground, he's like, you have to look up and let those people see your pain, or you have to look up to that top row and let those people see your pain, or let them see your happiness. He said, or you'll never make money in this business. So that was another thing that I always kept in the back of my mind, like, no matter what I'm doing, make that connection with the audience. And actually, I got in trouble in my run-in because I acknowledged the audience. I got in trouble for it, but I got a reaction my first time out. Not in trouble. I just got reprimanded. Like, oh, you're not supposed to look at the audience. There's thousands of people here to see us. Why are you not supposed to look at them? I got a reaction on my first time out as a J Brony, and nobody knows who I am. But because I looked at them and acknowledged them, they gave me a reaction. If you don't look at them and you don't acknowledge them, that's such a part of our business, and they used to do it old school, in the old school days, and it was such a part of the art. And now that art is lost and it's just TV. Well, that's why the people are sitting there on their hands, because there's no crowd interaction. And people want that. They paid us to see wrestling so that they can escape from reality and yell at, the mean, nasty wrestlers, or cheer for the good wrestlers, or, whatnot. So that was two things that were said to me when I was younger that was really, great pieces of advice that I never forgot, because I always knew how important my veterans were and that to learn from them.
Moving on to the Diva Dirt side of things, you're going to be doing a column for us. Would you like to reveal what it's going to be called and what we might be able to see in the first one?
We can thank you, the brilliant mind behind all this, for the name. It's going to be called Vanity Fair, and it's going to change from week to week. I get so bored, so it's going to jump from one subject to another. But the first one's going to be called The Anatomy of a Grizzled Diva. It's going to be really interesting, and it's going to be fun. I want everything to be fun now, nothing too serious. We won't ever get too serious, because then it's not fun anymore. But yeah, The Anatomy of a Grizzled Diva, and you guys will get to see what I'm talking about here in the next week or so when I get it put together.
We'll leave it at that. Any last words for the people listening, Krissy?
No, thank you guys so much for having me. You guys are awesome.
Well, thank you for joining us, Krissy. Thank you for listening, everybody. You can check out Krissy's Vanity Fair column very soon at divadirt.com. Until then, thank you for joining us. Bye.